Podcast. Have you turned it off and on again? Hello and welcome to the Showfile Podcast, a podcast for performance nerds. My name is Tom Kane, founder of A Work in Progress, a live electronic music direction company. And this is our first go at trying to make a podcast about making shows. Chrisy.
Hello.
You're one of our music directors.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me, who are you? What are you?
Who am I? So I'm Chrisy Lopez, or Christina Lopez. I've been drumming for however long, a very long time. Moved more into musical direction, working with like Kate Nash, Harvey Corson, doing tech work for like Christine and the Queens. And we met each other at a similar sort of workshop for Ableton a couple of years ago, and then I guess we've started ever since. So doing live electronic music with you. That was
a weird one as well. Like it was a playback workshop for the Trans Creative Collective, which was awesome. They also both to come down. I remember I'd been like aware of you in the scene, because you know how like in live music we kind of all know who's like about doing cool shit.
Yeah.
And I'd always wanted to be like, hey, like I should talk to Chris, because I'd seen a couple of your Instagram videos of you like playing along to like cool electronic stuff, and I was like, oh, we should definitely like have a chat, because that was like just when we were starting off A Work in Progress, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then we met at that, and then it was like, hey man, do you want to come over and do some make some fucking synth sound cool with shows and shit?
Yes. No, definitely.
And here we are. Right. So today we're going to talk about backing tracks.
Sweet, yes.
Pretty core, fundamental foundation for, I mean, even outside of electronic music, like every show nowadays, there is some backing tracks.
Yeah. It's like, you know, drums, bass, guitar, backing tracks.
Sometimes some synths too. Come on, man. Don't forget about the synths.
True.
So to start, we should probably define what backing tracks are, because there's definitely, it can be a bit confusing for some people. And I think also it's kind of quite broad as a term, as there's so many ways that you can control and perform with like pre-recorded music. So like we'd probably describe a backing track as parts of like an original recording that's performed to on stage.
Yeah.
So whether that's backing vocals, some rhythm guitar for you to play lead over, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's what we would consider to be backing tracks.
Yeah.
Super broad.
Yeah, exactly. BVs, you know, backing vocals. It's just to, you know, accompaniment the music.
Exactly. So there's like a load of use cases for that, right? So there's loads of different times that would be good for you to be using your backing tracks. I think like a real commonplace is things like extra effects, right? So you've got like some risers in your record. And you need that on the show. Or you've got like an extra tambourine, but you haven't got anyone with hands free to play a tambourine. That's where like your backing tracks become really, really useful.
Yeah,
because
no doubt.
you're not going to pay someone to sit there with a fucking white noise generator and do risers, are you?
No.
Although I would like that gig. If anybody's got that gig, I'll take the white noise riser gig. So it's like, you know, filling out that like sonically parts that may be, you know, very important to your song.
Filling in the gap sort of thing. Like, how much money do you have? How many people do you have?
Yeah.
Like, if you can't afford a band, use backing tracks.
That's true, yeah.
If it's only you on stage, if you've only got one synth, you can only make one noise at a time.
Yeah.
So you pick your lead line and then you play along to it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing like smaller venues like 150 cap, it may not be practical to bring in the whole string section that you arranged for a record.
Yeah.
Or like in your intro, you know, maybe you only have strings for your whole show in that intro, and it's like, well, no, I don't want to put strings players out of work. But, you know, also us bringing in 10 people for the first 60 seconds of a pub gig, probably not worthwhile.
Exactly.
Probably better we just put them on the track. So we want to do backing tracks, right?
Yep.
We got to start somewhere. There's a pretty key place that we start that some people can get sensitive about. Some people aren't. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah,
But it's pretty core to any recording.
No, true. Yeah, you need to get access to those stems.
Stems. That's the first thing whenever we sit down with clients. They're like, oh, cool. So where do we start then? It's like, have you got all your stems ready?
Yeah.
And they always go, oh, yeah, no, it's totally easy. That'll be totally easy. And it's like, I don't care. If your show's in 3 months' time, start on your stems now, and then we'll get to work on the show in 6 weeks' time. It'll take you so long.
Exactly. And it can be, so, to be fair, sometimes it can be easy, but a lot of the time it is like pulling teeth.
Oh, man. The more people that you have involved in that process of from your initial idea to then us needing to take your mixed record and help you put it on a stage, the more difficult it can become.
No, definitely.
Some mix engineers are really good, actually, though.
Yeah,
like,
no,
to be fair,
100%.
Some people are really great with it.
And I guess we're quite fortunate in like dance music that a lot of the artists we work with are the producers. So, we can get the raw stuff at least.
Yeah. People will come with stuff straight away. So stems as a concept to some people may be a little bit alien.
Yeah.
If you haven't done a lot of production before, it's very unlikely that you're even aware of like what it is, why they are. But they're basically the kind of separate parts of your song, the recording of your song, and kind of how much that's separated depends on the type of music that it is. So you'd have like a drum stem, a music stem, a bass stem, a BV stem, an LV stem. That's like quite a simple way to put it, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So what we can then do with those is put together, like, remove, for example, you have someone playing lead guitar. It's like we'll remove the lead guitar stem when we come to it
exactly.
later. When you're like getting these, I guess mostly the mix engineers, sometimes a producer, we collect them from the label. This is something that I think some people don't realize is like the label is going to ask you for your stems.
Yeah, no, everyone's going to. They need to make radio edits. They need to make an instrumental.
Publishing are going to want them for that BMW ad you just got that's going to make you rich forever.
So you need them.
You need them. Like don't get rid of them.
And they're so handy. Don't leave it so long that they're gone forever.
That actually happened on I won't name their name actually, but there was an artist just after the pandemic that we were working with, and they had the whole of like album 1 on a single hard drive, one fucking hard drive, and it's like every original project, every piece of audio, all the source audio, all the like recordings of drum machines, like the whole thing, this single hard drive. And 2 weeks before we started doing the show, programming the show, they came to me and they were like, the hard drives died. And I was like, what do you mean the hard drives died? And they were like, yeah, that's all of album 1. It's just gone. I was like, what do you mean it's gone? They were like, yeah, it's gone.
That's so sad.
And like it was the big tune, like, like the one big, that's a common thing with artists. You'll have like one tune that's like your big tune, especially when you're coming through like early and mid-level. And that's really important for us to put that in the gig.
Yeah.
So they lost all the original audio for that and had to completely remake their hit.
That's
like
crazy.
literally all the samples had to go back and like resample them again, do the arrangement again, do the like the piano sounds, the synth sounds, the hi-hat sounds, like all of it redone. That was hilarious because they just didn't. Oh man, don't put it all on one hard drive. Put it in Dropbox.
Yeah, definitely.
It's safe in Dropbox. So there's probably like some good ways to deal with your stems, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like if you can get them mixed, that would be ideal.
Yeah, preferably mixed.
If you can get them at all, like that's also great. But yeah, like just a lot of it is to do with like if you're organised, your life will just be so much simpler.
So much simpler.
Chuck them all into a project, name them, label them.
Make sure the kick is called kick.
Yeah.
Not like 58 audio.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure any clients of ours,
Yeah.
if they're watching this, they'll be like, "Oh, fuck, that was me."
Exactly. Don't get confused. Consider how you're going to play them. Like, is like the hardware you're using, does that use a certain sample rate?
Yeah.
So you need to make sure all your music, the stems that you're using is going to be a certain sample rate when you bounce them out.
Yeah.
And just making like if you can make everything level with the stems that you have, do a little bit of mixing or whatever you need to do to make everything more consistent, then that's what you should do.
Be so easy.
Yeah.
So easy.
I mean, it's like you don't have to do it, but I think your life would be so much easier if you did.
I mean, like, you get so many weird names of stuff when you get stems come through from people, and
Yeah.
you find that as people go longer and longer and like have to work with more and more people and more other like random third parties, everything starts to become more organized naturally and become more, you know, named better. I remember like when I was at college doing music tech and stuff, it was something they just told us all the time, and I'd always be like, oh yeah, whatever, mate. Yeah, label stuff, it'll be fine. And it's just like, well, in one song, it's not really an issue because you're just like, well, I only need to look through one song. It's once you get to 25 of these songs,
Yeah.
and you need to find the kick drum for each one, as does the software. And like, if everything's just called kick.wav or everything's just called, you know, silly name.wav,
Yeah,
then it's lost forever.
Yeah, it's hard. Like you're just like chasing after stuff, and you'll never catch up, really.
Yeah, 100%.
And sometimes you might not even get them, and then in that case, like, do you even use backing tracks at all? Like,
yeah, there's, as much as we are talking about it, it's important to acknowledge, isn't it, that on some shows you're going to be better without the extra layer of technology. There's definitely certain genres of music where it's like, just get someone to play stuff and just rearrange your songs around the players that you've got. Like, that's totally acceptable. Like, just because lots of people use backing tracks, and you've seen, you know, like, Taylor Swift's got backing tracks, so I must have them, otherwise my show will never be good. It's like, no, that's bollocks. Like, use what's correct for the genre of music that you're playing and the resources that you have. You know, like, if you don't have a laptop, that's fine. Don't buy a laptop and do backing tracks. Get a bunch of really good musicians. And just be like, learn the song.
Exactly. If
that's acceptable.
If you don't have like a laptop, or your laptop's so sketchy, it's gonna just like power down every time. Just get if your friends are up for it and they're like, listen, do you want to be in my band?
100%.
Then just do it like that.
It's totally cool.
Then you just have to worry about them like not getting on the train or something like that.
Which, I mean, you need to worry about that regardless of your backing tracks. Great. I mean, so I guess once you've you know, if you've decided I'm going to use some backing tracks, like that's what we're going to do. You then have to decide how you're going to get those backing tracks to the speakers.
Yes, yeah.
And there's like a few different ways of going about it. And I guess the main things that you're going to be looking at is either a hardware player or doing it with software. Software is like your laptop setup with like a sound card and whatever, using Ableton or Logic or Pro Tools or whatever your flavor of DAW is that you prefer, or some sort of hardware playback system, which is quite diverse nowadays.
Yeah, there's loads of options. Like, especially the new SPD Pro, you've got like 6 outputs out of there.
So many outputs
compared to like it used to be 4.
Yeah.
So you got a whole multi-track there.
Which will take you quite far. Like on a small pop gig, like that's your BVs, your music, and a click.
Yeah, no, definitely.
For everyone.
And there was the Cymatics. They had 2 different models, like a 16 output and an 8 output one.
Which I think they're discontinued now, but like those kind of hardware players, you don't really find them as much anymore.
No.
I think some people you can rent them, but like, you know,
they're definitely still about. Like, it's like there is still like multi-tracking like hardware options out there.
Yeah.
And then you've got your super basic left and right.
The classic
from your iPod. Well, iPods don't exist anymore, I think, either.
Be from your phone.
From
a
your
YouTube
phone,
video on your phone.
From your phone. Windows Movie Player.
100%.
Yeah, anything left and right. God, a CD player, I guess you could do it on as well. Which
I feel like we should do that just for like an art project of someone's show.
Yeah.
See who's willing to do a CD player as their playback system.
Do you know what? I knew someone that, like, for visuals, he'd have a DVD that he burnt, and it had all his tracks and all his visuals on there, but it was panned left and right, so like they could still use the video, use the audio from like the right side to go from front of house, and then the left side was click.
No way.
But then you'd have to, but it would skip the DVD.
Yeah.
Every now and then. So if it was on a stubby stage, like depending where the visuals needed to be.
Oh my God.
So that, yeah.
That's
and also
retro.
you had, I'm trying to think what to do. He had to like set it on loop or something like that.
Right.
So it would never like close.
Oh shit! Right, and then just go to the DVD screen.
Yeah. So it would
Imagine that
never.
mid-gig, you're just like, there it goes.
Yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
just starts cheering for that.
So there was like a lot of panic at the end to go like, okay, cool, cut off the visuals,
Oh shit!
pull down the sound. Yeah.
Fuck, man. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend using a DVD player as your playback rig. But,
No.
that's fine.
But the options are there.
The options are there. If that's your art, then you do what you need to do. It is a good point though, that like any system that you choose, there's always going to be pros and cons. There's always going to be ways that things can break. Like playback rigs are part of your performance, right? And they are as vulnerable in your performance as any other piece of it, which is like, people's reliability, a guitar string breaking mid-track, like things will break. So, you need to look at like the pros and cons of what you're going to get. Like, are the gains worth, are the pros worth the cons?
Yeah, exactly.
Because nothing's perfect.
No.
And everything will break. I can promise you. The only thing I can promise you is that at some point something will break.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So with hardware playback systems and samplers and that kind of thing, the thing that they are quite good with is they're much less susceptible to boring crashes.
Yeah.
I haven't turned the Wi-Fi off and it's now logging me into Splice immediately or whatever silly bullshit that laptops sometimes do. And they don't necessarily need quite as much babysitting because they'll often have another job. Like, for example, if you've got an SPD on a show, chances are you're going to run some backing tracks and a bit of electronic drums at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, the drummer probably knows what's going on there. And can probably program that and look after that. And the most likely thing that will happen with it is that the power falls out the back or gets pulled out the back by whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So, they're, as much as that kind of perceived reliability is good, they'll have their own like operating system and workflow and have like a weird way that you need to load everything in.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone's different. I mean, I shouldn't say that with the SPD Pro so much because they've got a lovely piece of software for it now, and Roland really did a good job with that.
Yeah.
But some of them can be a little bit
Yeah,
screwy.
like the old one, it could only be in 16-bit.
Oh man, so many boring little quirks.
Yeah.
And if someone's not good with that gear and not quick on it, then that's going to hold you up in your rehearsals.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because there's a lot of choice in the hardware that you use of like, right, so when I'm in the rehearsal, am I going to want to make lots and lots of changes really, really quickly? And if you are, it's possible that a hardware player isn't going to give you that dynamic way of working, because you may need to be like bouncing something out and then loading it into the player. And so you've got a whole workflow of being like, okay, well, I need a session that I can rebounce my backing tracks from, and then I need to load them into the player. How long does that process take? Is that going to mean that I can do all the things that I need to do, like literally while we're talking about it?
Yeah.
But also, maybe you're not really going to be changing the backing tracks much.
Yeah.
So that doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah. It depends like how many people you have and stuff like that, and what the artist wants and stuff. So it all depends. But yeah, you will be slower on hardware just because of editing.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to edit your tracks and stuff or jump ahead and stuff like that, you're limited. You can't loop the chorus, so you can nail it.
Yeah.
It just things like that to consider.
You'll have to be like hitting another pad or something.
Yeah.
Replaying like, oh, well, now we play the loop bit. Don't forget to play the loop bit, otherwise it all stops.
Yeah.
It's not the only way to do it though, right?
No. So I guess what we would normally do, software. So like using your DAW and an interface, and then you could have redundancy with that, or if you can't afford it yet, you can still just have your laptop and the interface. And then it is just so much quicker to edit, but you really need someone to babysit those laptops.
You just don't leave them alone.
Yeah.
Because I think something that I think people often misunderstand with putting together like an Ableton rig and putting it on a stage is like, when you have that laptop isn't designed to just output audio.
No.
It's designed to, do your emails as well as edit video, as well as play audio, as well as, watch YouTube, as well as, it's supposed to do this diverse range of things.
Yeah.
Which means it's full of this like infinite complexity. which is like the fact they even turn on is a fucking miracle. But like, you know, when it's that, it means that you can get these kind of weird little issues happen. You know, it might be that you need to reset your interface. Because for whatever reason, the USB has just done something weird on this boot cycle.
Yeah. No, there's definitely been times where it's like, well, it was fine in soundcheck. It was. Of course, it's fine in soundcheck.
It's like, it's fine in soundcheck. Why doesn't it work now? It's just like, yeah, man. Like, yeah.
It's complicated.
Like, we're doing our fucking best.
Yeah. Like, something's happened. Something's timed out in your laptop, and it's made something do something else.
Yeah.
Which you don't want it to do.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like if you've got someone to manage that and just go like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'll just quickly reboot this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, being on top of like how quick your boot time is from like pressing the power button to having Ableton running the session or tools running the session Logic. Like, so long as someone's like worked on that to make sure it's, you know, we aim for 90 seconds or less with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And make it quite a big conscious effort and time that to make sure that it, you know, once you hit that button, it's like, cool, we could be up and running in this amount of time, which means we will only ever lose like half a song or whatever. You know, you figure it out. It's different gig to gig, right? But yeah, you've got to kind of, there needs to be a human to do that, whose kind of only job is that. Because if you're also at the same time supposed to be like playing very complicated chords, or you know, like holding a beat or holding a rhythm, or even literally performing, like singing the show.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not practical to say, hey guys, I'm just gonna
nip
over here and just log back into iCloud or whatever silly bollocks you need to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the thing with it is like, I guess the point that we're trying to make is that there's no better way of doing this. There's not, neither of these are like, this is the superior way. If you use this hardware system, you'll never have a problem. It's like, or if you use this Logic playback rig, you'll never have a problem. You'll have a problem with both of them.
Yeah.
They'll both fail you at some point.
Exactly. Yeah, it's dependent to gig, because like, why use Ableton if you don't know how to use it?
Oh, 100%.
If you make all your tunes in Logic and you know Logic really well and you know how to like make MIDI work in there if you need it or not, you just use Logic.
Yeah, absolutely. Just use fucking Bitwig if that's what you prefer. It doesn't matter. So long as you can program the gig, you can program it quickly, and you're not ever going to struggle with keeping it alive.
Yeah.
Then that's the thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
If you've got so much stuff to set up, you're tour managing yourself, maybe like a left and right from your phone is the right way to do it.
100%. And maybe there's a vibe with that as well. Like, you know, the whole, oh man, the name of the artist now escapes me, which I absolutely should have. Sleaford Mods is that, like, the whole shtick with their show is that they rock up and they've got like a laptop on a stool that they've grabbed from the venue.
Right. Okay.
And there's one guy that just stands there and just presses spacebar on the laptop.
Yeah. It's a vibe then.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe now that they're a bigger artist, that has developed into a multi-track playback rig side of stage, and that's now just a prop. But as far as I'm aware, like in the beginning, that was it. Like they literally just a fucking headphone jack in the side of the laptop. Because that's all they needed, right? Because like Sleaford Mods isn't exactly the kind of thing where you're going, oh, they missed the detail on this particular, you know, like 808 snare drum or whatever. It's like, no, that gig is about the vibe. It's about the lyrics. It's about the meaning of it and having like this kind of fucking mad energy around it. And all you need is a left and right from a laptop to do that. Yeah. So that's what they did. And also, it's kind of unique and weird to turn up and just go.
They're doing the purpose. They're backing the performance.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Sweet. Should we do some practicals?
Yeah, we're going to need to get a couple of bits of gear and put together some backing tracks and put them in the gear. Yeah. So there's a bit of an example of how this is going to work in real life. Okay, great. So let's quickly cut there and we'll set something up.
Yeah. Transition. Sweet.
So first, let's talk about the 404, right? Mm-hmm. That's one of the. I guess I kind of only chosen it because it has like really long sample playback, and I've been using it a lot for education stuff. Like when I'm doing lectures, it's a really good way to demonstrate just like a really basic hardware player, because we've also only got stereo out on it, right? Yeah. So we kind of have to be a bit clever if you want to like start scaling up from doing just backing tracks and starting to add clicks and stuff. But I guess to get anything in there in the first place, we're going to have to make a little session in Ableton with our stems, which I have right here for, again, we have like a bunch of different tracks that we've made for doing like examples in education and all that kind of thing. So this is a track called Fight Them Off, and maybe I'll just quickly play it so we can just have a little listen, start to get an idea of the track that we're going to be using. These stems come with like 2 different bass options, which is not normal, but we're going to use bass option 1, I think, in this track. There's no point listening to the other 2. But what the thing about these stems, which is really handy, is like now I can start soloing through each of these parts and starting to get an idea of like what instruments are in there, what we should play, where, like what kind of players we could choose to put on a show. So things like if I solo the bass, that's obviously just the bass. I've got like a separate clap. You can hear just the clap. I've also got a kick where you can just hear the kick. What else have we got in here that's quite good fun? Got a nice little chordy type part, which if I scale that back, there we go. Some nice little chords on an E piano. Yeah, and then if we scroll right down to the bottom of the project, we'll then have kind of more of our vocals and stuff. So we've got some more splits here of like some doubles for the vocals there. Mm-hmm. I've got a separate lead vocal, which is really handy. And so like this is a quite common way of stems to be presented to you, right?
Yeah.
Like the way that this is split. And then what we'd normally do to start off with is create like a programming session.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, you're listening to the tune whilst you're at it, you might as well do some maintenance. Like,
yeah. So like these are really nicely labelled. So we already know that if I just group, if I select all of the tracks that say drums in the title, because basically we've got like the syntax on them where it's got like song name, like bus name, and then the individual part name. So for example, the clap stem is called Fight Them Off, drums, clap. So it makes it quick and easy for me to group those using Command G. And then I've just got like a drum group that I can rename. So now if I solo the drum group,
there's all our drums.
There's all of our drums. I can then do the same with the bass. So if we just group just the bass, there's like one bass channel like that. So I just put that in a group as well.
Nice.
I'll then probably do a music bus.
Yep.
It's normally the next thing that we do. And actually in our stems, we've got Fight Them Off music, like guitar shimmer. And that's kind of just our melodic information. So if I just select all of our melodic information tracks like this, just shift click them, nice and simple, Command G, group it, call it music. And when I solo that group now, you can hear we've only got the music tracks. And then while that's playing back, I'll just quickly do the vocal tracks as well. But do you know what though? I don't know if you're the same with this, Chrissy, but I prefer to do, rather than a general Vox bus, I'll normally do a lead vocal and a BV bus.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because and that's kind of, even on gigs where we don't have like a lead vocalist, the most common thing that you're going to mute is going to be the lead vocals.
Yeah. Like if there's a feature but the person's never there, you might want to cut that feature line and just play the hook parts like that are instruments rather than this adding all these like verses in there when there's nobody on there might feel weird. Maybe just have the chorus lines in there.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense to keep that separate.
100%. You also never know when a feature's going to turn up.
Yeah, true.
Well, I've had the band come to me literally sort of 15 minutes before a gig and be like, "Oh yeah, such and such from this record is now going to come out tonight."
Yeah.
Like, okay, great. Well, better quickly unmute that. So what we'll also normally do in this session is add a BPM to it, which is normally pretty easy. If you just like have a look at the drums on your session, you'll see they'll normally fall onto the grid unless someone's got something off grid. So I think this might be 110. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I can pop a click on to go with it just to like check that everything's kind of lining up with that drum stuff. Mm-hmm. Which that sounds about right. sometimes you get difficult stems where someone's got a tiny bit of pre-roll. And it's common with certain types of mix engineer who don't mix to the grid.
Yeah.
Which is common. Like,
Yeah, no.
we're thinking about how it sounds. We're not thinking about how it grids. We're like on the live side, I want it to grid so it's easy for me to make clicks and edits and all this kind of stuff. Whereas from a mix perspective, you're just trying to get the best mix.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be gridded. So you may have like a tiny couple of milliseconds. Or if someone's done a bad job of bouncing the stems out, you might have different pre-roll on each stem.
Which is a nightmare, but
Such a nightmare.
luckily we don't have it here.
No. Deliberately made these quite easy. So now in our programming session, we've got our bass group, we've got a drum group, we've got a music group, we've got a BV group, we've got an LV group, which would give us a really good quick basis of being able to bounce out backing tracks.
Yeah, definitely.
And for the 404, it's just a stereo pair, right?
Yeah, so we've got the option of having our tracks in stereo, or we've got the option of having it in mono and a mono click track, which is what we'll decide and probably do both.
Yeah.
But I guess if you wanted stereo, you could still do that if you the drums are on track.
Yeah.
That's your timing. Like you don't need a click track then.
Yeah.
But if let's say you had a drummer, or if you wanted to finger drum your drum parts along because you don't sing, or you do both, or you're just trying to perform as much as you can on your own, you probably would need a click track because there's not a lot of stuff to latch onto.
Let's literally listen to it right now. Like, so I've muted the drum bus now. I suppose the bass is quite percussive on this, but good luck hearing that bass with any sort of clarity on an actual stage unless you're like in ears with a good monitor engineer.
Yeah, and there's a few moments where it dips in and out, so why give yourself the fear?
Why make it hard for yourself?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll bounce this with the drums in. Let's start off by literally just getting a piece of audio into that machine.
Yeah.
And then we can start pulling pieces out and creating different versions.
Yeah.
So I've just got some loop braces there so that we've got our... I just selected kind of the region of our track, and then Command L to set the loop braces. And this just means it's a quick and easy way of selecting the region that we need to bounce from.
100%. Yeah.
And then Command Shift R, get to export audio, and we only need to export the main output because we want like the sum of all of our stems. I'm going to export it as a WAV file, 24-bit. We're running at 48K. Sometimes that needs to change. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't think for the Roland 404 it will make much of a difference, but we'll find out in a second. So just hit export. I'm going to need somewhere to export this. So in our podcast folder, I'll just pop in a little bounces folder there, and we'll put everything in bounces just to keep it nice and organized. And then we'll call this WAV file fight them off full tracks, and then save it. Leave that to export. Nice and simple. The next thing to do, like the great thing about the 404 is it has this lovely little app, the SP404 Mark II app. So pretty much all I'm going to need to do is drag and drop that audio into the app, and I can actually do it. I found this out the other day. I can actually do it from the Ableton browser, which is really great. So I can grab this in our stems bounces folder. I can grab our fight them off full tracks.wav and then open up our 404 and literally drag and drop it in there. And then the 404 starts processing it. The software starts processing it for the 404, detecting BPM probably incorrectly. BPM detection is normally total trash on most software. And you'll probably be able to see on that 404 there that we've got a pad that's lighting up. Because now you should be able to just press that pad and it'll work.
At the moment, it's gated, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's another thing, I guess, with it. It's like there will be programming, and obviously we don't want to gate. It's like holding that down for your whole show is going to be quite annoying. So
just 3 minutes of don't turn the tracks off.
Yeah.
And then you have to go all the way back to the beginning if you do have to really trigger that. So we it's really easy with the software. It's probably arguably like quite a good way of doing this if you only need that stereo out, because it's got this
Yeah.
like nice, easy software. It's a pretty robust piece of gear. And, you know, you can do some effect stuff anyway. But yeah, we'll turn gate off. I'll change it to one shot so it does just play from the top to the bottom. And now when you press it, that should just run now. And we've just got backing tracks.
Lovely.
And now we can perform whatever it is we want to perform over this audio.
Yeah.
Nice and simple.
Exactly. So, like, let's say we've got an artist and we've decided now that they want to sing that lead vocal part.
Yeah.
We'll run this. We
Yeah.
just need to bounce a new version. But
Yeah.
luckily, we've got our programming project and we see the lead vocal and we can just cut it out,
Literally
rebounce
mute it like that. Simple. I guess, I'll do a nice new bounce of this then. Export. Fight them off, and rather than full tracks, I'm going to call this bounce no LV. There we go. Bounce that.
Lovely.
Super simple. And then we're going to go, let's get our Ableton browser to refresh. There we go. And we've got fight them off, no LV, which I'm then going to drag over to our SP404 Mark II. I'm going to put it on a different cell for now, or a different pad for now, just for the sake of this example. But I suppose on a real gig, we'd probably override the old version so that you don't end up playing it by accident.
Definitely. You'd start building a set list, wouldn't you? You'd have track 1, track 2, but here we've got example 1, example 2.
Yeah, exactly. So now it should be, let me make sure on that pad that I take the gate off like we did before. So literally just in the software, just click that little gate, check mark, and then click the one shot check mark in the SP404 editor.
Now,
There we go.
So hopefully now we've got a version now of without a lead vocal, ready for you to hear and then sing along to now.
Yeah. Which, I mean, this is one of the disadvantages of the hardware, right? Is that we have to just sit here and wait.
Yeah.
The bounce sounds correct.
Yeah.
That's definitely only the double. And then you could just sing along with that. So one of the things, in fact, can you just play it back real quick for me?
Yeah, sure.
Just stop it and run it again. Like, if you have a listen to this intro, there's quite a good rhythm from those pulses. But the thing that I can inevitably see happening is, you know, you end up not being able to hit the one. It's this bit here. You might need a little count to get there, because like those pads are like pretty small, and like as much as, you know, if you're in your headphones listening to this, you'll be like, wow, you can hear that perfectly fine, right? Like, put that through a reverb bus and then 2 terrible speakers in front of you.
Yeah.
And like that's more what a gig sounds.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
And you could, like, the monitor mixes are all about like a functional mix to help you perform your part, as opposed to being like a perfect recreation of the record, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where we'll start adding click tracks.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess that's the next thing to do with this, to make sure we stay in time. I mean, also, click tracks are great.
They are great.
You can do so much with a click track.
Especially if you're singing, you trigger it and you go like, hi everyone, blah, 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 blah. My name is XYZ. I'm so happy for you to be here. You can easily get lost where you are and having 100%. A 1, 2, and then you're like, oh shit, okay, I better shut up now. Here we go. Yeah. Start to sing the track.
And we're not like, with those click tracks, we're not preparing for you to be fucking it up every night. We're preparing for when you've been on a plane for 12 hours and you've just got off the plane, and now you need to go straight into sound check, and now you need to do a show, and that show needs to be as good as the show when you were well rested.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we're putting in as many fail-safes, as many ways to make sure that you know exactly where you are, exactly what's going on, because the robots just get on with it.
Yeah.
They're not going to stop for you.
Yeah, it's for confidence, not for... You're not like plastering problems, you're just like giving you confidence.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I remember that actually there was one show where we had to do so much work on adding tuning cues to the click, because the beginning of the track, the singer had to sing over a single high string, which is basically impossible to pitch to.
Yeah.
So we had to put loads and loads of, like chords and notes, so that they could sing, this top line at the beginning of this tune, perfectly in tune for then it was like, you know, high string, and then these big house pianos came in, and we had like a bunch of problems on a bunch of gigs where they were out of tune with the pianos by the time they came in. So they'd be this big weird like modulation, just go, whoa, oh, and then we're there and we're back in, and it sits back in the mix better. But like this was the problem is like that you can't expect someone to eat. And this was on like quite a big gig as well, where we had like proper engineers, proper monitors, proper everything. But it's literally just musically, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's a very producer arrangement, because you've recorded all of that in the studio, probably over a different demo idea, and then you've rearranged it so that now it's like a vocal over a high string on its own, which is great and very impactful. And also in the gig, it's a really great moment where it's like gets very, very quiet after being very noisy. It's just like one person singing with a high string, sick as fuck. But also they need to be in tune. So like, let's put a bunch of notes on the click track for them to stay in time,
exactly,
and stay in tune with it. Click tracks are super easy to do though. So I'm just going to add one of our work in progress ones. So I've just made a little MIDI track in our programming project. And if I go into tools, this is like, so internally in a work in progress, we've got all of these different clicks and cue Ableton drum racks that we can just drag and drop into sessions. I mean, click tracks are one of those where you can use any sound you want, right?
Oh yeah, an obnoxious like cowbell, like a wood block, or the digital one. The racks make it super easy to like swap those sounds in and out. But I'm pretty sure you can do a similar thing in like Logic with like there's a sampler on that, so you can build your own on there. And I think you can change or record the audio out of Pro Tools as well. Yeah. So there's like many ways to do it. But here we're using the drum racks in Ableton. Yeah.
I've got one that we've had for years, and I've got like just 2 cowbell sounds. It's quite loud, actually, that.
Definitely won't go out of time then.
Oh man, it's that's gonna live in your brain forever. It's gonna cut through everything. So I just made, with Ableton, it's super easy to build these click tracks, because it's like, and this is one of the reasons that we grid our programming session, is now I can just make a short little 1-bar loop of click, which I can then drag the MIDI clip as a loop across the rest of the region of the song, and then we've just got click that's in time with the song. It's super easy in Ableton to use the loop region inside the MIDI clip, and then if I need to change anything inside that, it'll then be across the rest of the track. So once you've made your little click loop, that's probably going to sound a bit more like this. No chance you're not going to keep in time with that anymore. So you don't really want that coming out the speakers.
No.
You're going to want that going to your in-ears.
Yeah.
And the kind of the cheeky hack around that is to use the left and right as 2 mono channels rather than as a stereo pair.
Exactly.
That's kind of something that, as you start to move into using like more like complicated desks and things like that, you start to find that channels are just channels, right?
Yeah.
And then stereo pairs, it's just literally a couple of those channels. Just because something is stereo doesn't mean it can only be used as stereo.
No.
It just means you need to be sneaky with your panning.
Exactly.
So what we're going to need to do now is like pan all of our stems either left or right, and pan our click either left or right, and then bounce that stereo pair, load it into the 404.
Yes.
Then we have our two sides of it. So with Ableton, one of the ways that I like to do this that's nice and quick is to select all of our stem groups in our programming session, Command G it to set it up as a group, and then we'll call that group tracks, and then I'm just going to pan that over to the left, and then with the click channel I'm going to pan that over to the right, and that should sound a bit like this, which if you've got headphones on, it's probably going to be more obvious, because you're going to hear that click on the right and you're going to hear those tracks on the left. So now that I've got those, doesn't sound like it's clipping too much. I'm just going to select our loop braces again, so that I can select that region to bounce, and Command-Shift-R, bounce it as main, as a WAV file again. And so rather than no LV, let's call it no LV, and let's call it tracks left, click right, just so you know.
Yeah, it's very handy to label that, because if you get that wrong, that sucks.
Yeah, it's going to really ruin your front of house mix. And then again, I'm just going to bring up that Ableton browser. We'll hop into the Work in Progress podcast. There we go. It's there. Click left, tracks right, and then drag and drop that over into our 404 app, and then pop it on that third pad. Leave it to detect the BPM, because it just needs to quickly detect the BPM badly. Although I would hope with a click it can figure out what's going on there. Okay, right. So we'll go over to this, turn the gate off as always, pop it on one shot, and then now when you hit that third pad on the 404, there we go. We've got our tracks left, click right.
Perfect.
Easy peasy. Go play a gig.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things that we may add now we've got a click track is 2 bars of pre-roll.
Yeah. Especially if, let's say, like, this artist wants to play those synth parts at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like if you have a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
They can do what they want then. And
yeah. Right. So that's nice and simple. 404, lads. Easy peasy. Let's quickly reset this and scale it up so we can do a bit of multi-track playback.
Yeah.
Rather than just our left and right. Because that's kind of the next step that you'd want to start having your like stereo BBs or stereo music.
Yeah.
So let's quickly run and do that. Okay, welcome back. We've reset with the SPD SX Pro as our next hardware example. The cool thing about that is that it can do the multi-track playback, right? Because it's got 6 outputs.
Yeah. Now, so we've upgraded from the SP404 from 2, and now we've got 6 along the back of the SPD.
Great.
And then, like, why would you do that? Well, it means your front of house engineer can have more control and stuff like that. So we'll show the benefits of that in the moment, but we've got to make new backing tracks for that to happen.
Yeah, like it'd be super common that your front of house engineer would say like, oh, I want to be able to like push the backing tracks more here, or I want to try and push the backing vocals here, or whatever it is. So having that separation is really, really handy. So on our programming session, I'm going to do a cheeky little stem kind of bouncing technique that we use all the time, so that you can basically just with one export, it'll give you your separation across however many different tracks or groups that you want for your live stems. So I'm going to select all of our music stuff to start off with. So that's what, like bass, drums, music, and actually the LV one here. I'm going to group that. I'm going to call that our call it music now. And then we're going to keep BV as BV, and then we're going to have click. And maybe, I don't know, for the sake of making it feel more like a real thing, should we say that the kick and the clap are going to be done by an acoustic kick and clap in this performance?
Yeah.
Just out of like, for the sake of it sounding a bit more real. So I'm just going to mute those 2, kick and clap. And then all I need to do now is select all the tracks that I want to bounce. And then when I go to export, I can go to export selected tracks only. So normally it would be on main, but if you go to the rendered track drop down, selected tracks only, as a WAV as well, let's export those. And the fun thing about that is it's going to take the name of the track in the session and it's going to append it to the end of the name that you have for the WAV file. So on like this example, I've got it fight them off space dash And then what Ableton will then do is add another space and then the name of the track.
Yeah.
When you're doing render selected tracks only. So when I hit save on that, it's now just going to batch all of those out for us, which is super quick and easy. That took no time at all. And then if we go to our browser in Ableton, then you'll see that we've got Fight Them Off BV, Fight Them Off Click, Fight Them Off Music, as well as the other ones that we had earlier. So those will now just be the individual parts as opposed to the full stereo track that we had before, right? So I guess then we need to just load them into the SPD.
Yeah.
Which it has a handy app for.
Yeah, so much easier. And it takes way more different audio formats now, which just makes everything so much better.
So I think we've actually got them already loaded in here from when we were testing it earlier. So I'll just load them back in again. But basically, if you just, from your Finder, you can literally drag and drop these onto the pad that you want them on. And then the app's great. It then just, does a little processing loading bar. And once it's decided it's processed it, it'll then just come up on that pad. So I'm moving the BVs onto that middle one. I'm going to pop the click over on our pad 9. So this is literally from a Finder window, dragging and drop onto the pad that you want on the app. It's super easy. You can download that from Roland Cloud with a Roland Cloud account. We're actually using exclusively Roland devices for our hardware playback examples.
yeah, not intentionally. It's just they were here. So.
And their new generation of stuff, they've made nice apps to go with all of their gear.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as much as it's great doing it in the box, with the controls on the unit, this is very quick, very simple. You can see a lot of things at once rather than having to dive into submenu after submenu. So that's a lot easier.
100%.
Right, Chrissy, we have our pads with what it looks like each of our separate stems on.
Yeah, no, definitely. So at the moment, it's not going to do what we want it to do. If we hit this music,
I don't hear any click.
Yes, exactly, which is pointless.
Yeah.
So if we stop that, if we go here, this is our BVs channel. We're not going to hear anything until those BVs come in. That's why it's silent. And then we've just got click. So at the moment, that is kind of useless.
Yeah.
They all need to play at the same time.
Yep.
And as well, we've all got them coming out of the left and right. So
yeah.
I guess let's do the outputs first, just so we're not blasting our ears
all
Sounds
down
good. The same one. So we want to go to outputs.
Outputs. There's just a tab on this app that just says output, which is great. And then we have this kind of routing matrix, right?
100%. So we've got our left and right, which is coming out of our master output, which you can see at the top.
Yeah, just a little cell for master output. Easy.
Perfect. And then we want our BVs one. So they're stereo, so they need to come out of our direct direct 1 and 2. So that's going to be our 3 and 4 left and right. So that's just underneath.
So so basically just click the cell so it's not highlighted blue anymore on master on that P8, and then we're going to instead choose a direct out left to right. There you go. So that's actually all routed now.
Yeah.
And you can hear it. And if I turn that off, you can hear it mutes. And then if I select our left and right again, there you go. There's our left and right.
Perfect.
Is that only on one side? I'm just looking at our record.
Yeah, is it still panned on here?
It's fucking panned on here.
So, yeah, the main time things will be wrong is to do with human error.
It's such a good example of human error. Also, one of the great things about bouncing stems in this way and having your programming session set up this way is I literally just go back and I correct my error, which is that I had, from our example earlier, I had the BVs panned to the left. So now all I need to do is set them to center in Ableton and go back and rebounce these. So export selected tracks only. I'm just going to overwrite these as we did before. And then we can jump back into the SPD Pro app and take this and then drag and drop. It was our BV that was wrong, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So pop that on there. I mean, should have probably checked those stems before dumping them into the thing that we're
All
using.
good, all good.
But never mind. Okay, cool. So now when you play those back, that should be sorted.
Hopefully. I guess again, like, you got to wait for it to play, which is annoying.
I'm sure that
Hearing
there's a very smart way of auditing everything before you put it into your SPD Pro. But
No,
you know,
definitely.
this is also partly demonstrating one of those cons. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Okay, and then that's our stereo pair, which I can then, if I mute the cells on the app,
Yeah.
then, you know, we can mute those left and right outputs. Okay, great. And then we're going to need our click coming out of Direct 3, which we're using as
Yes.
output 5, aren't we? So I literally just click the master cell for pad 9 so that's muted in the master. And then I go down to the Direct 3 cell on pad 9 and I click on that, and then that should route it out of there, which is now coming, looks like it's coming into our record correctly. That's good. Okay, cool.
Perfect. All right. Now they all need to play at the same time. So now we're going to jump to our pad link part.
Pad link tab.
That's the one. And you could set pad 7, 8, 9 all to the same one, pad link 1, and then the receive part, pad link 1 as well. But the thing is that like you could hit 1 and then it couldn't play any of the others. So if you had like this on 1 and then you had these on 1, 2.
So that's doing your pad link send from pad 7
Yeah.
and then your pad link receive on pad 8 and pad 9. So you're just like setting up like it kind of works a bit like a mute group, except it's a play group.
Playgroup.
So
yeah.
like everything's saying like if a pad on the link send group is played, then everything listening on the link receive group will play once that pad is hit.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. And that's great. So like you hit this and you've got everything.
So that's hit pad
working
7, it's all going.
The only thing is that like I think it's great to have like a master one. So you, as long as you always hit this one,
Yeah.
pad 7, you'll hear everything. The problem is that like you could hear sound out of this and not hear it.
Yeah.
But you're hearing click, so you're thinking, oh right, everything must be working.
Yeah.
You maybe your music mix is quite down or whatever. So I kind of like having like a master.
Yeah.
Which for me I think will be my pad 4. So I'll set
Cool.
that.
I'll quickly set that up for you now then. So I'll from the pad 7 link send, I'll set that to this little dash, which means nothing, which is null. It's a null
Yeah.
value. And I'll set it to link receive. Pad 7 now link receives on link group 1, I guess. And then we'll go to pad 4, set that to send link group 1. And you can actually see it as a nice little diagram in the app. It kind of
Yeah.
shows you the routing that you've just set up. And then you can hit that pad 4 and that'll go.
Yeah.
Except that's quite quiet compared to the other ones.
Exactly. So now we should probably change the velocity.
Oh, right.
Because we don't need that when we're playing backing tracks.
Right, I see. So how do we do that?
So,
Is it wave and play type?
Yes, that's the one. So like
Great.
the dynamic switch on pad 4, we're going to
Okay.
get rid of that.
Cool.
And that's quite handy because now we don't need to edit pad 7, 8, 9 because this is like our
Aha.
master pad. So
Yeah, right.
it saves a lot of editing if you just go like that.
Now we
and
hit
now
pad 4.
everything is in
everything
full
runs.
velocity now.
And I suppose actually now with this pad link, we could link pad 4 to like trigger 6, 7, 8. Like if you're not using any triggers,
Yeah.
those cells would then be totally off these pads at all. So it would like help you stop mishitting
Yeah, you could
something
have
by accident.
exactly. You could have you hacky way use the trigger outputs that aren't plugged into anything. Use them as your backing tracks, and then like one on
Yeah.
master, and then you've still got all the 6 and an extra 2 like shoulder bars and
Yeah.
something to play.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And also now that they're separated, you can have the click in your ears. You still have music.
Yeah.
You've got a stereo pair there. And the BVs are separate. So if you wanted to have some control effects-wise, just on the music, or however you decide to group them out, you
Yeah.
can. So if we hit our master pad,
Yeah.
we've got like a
Oh, nice. Like a little filter there.
yeah, but we're only using the music
Yeah.
channel for that. So hopefully when our BVs come in, they'll still cut through.
Yeah. There it is. Always have to wait for it. Yeah, nice. And that effect stuff there, that's not necessarily you doing that. That could be your front of house engineer who's like maybe doing some more functional compression or EQ for the room, or you know, like side chaining it to something or whatever. Like,
yeah, because
it's just splitting out that control, isn't it?
Exactly. It's just that there's more options there, basically.
Yeah, nice.
You could separate it even more.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just like an example of that.
I guess like there's one thing to watch out for with your hardware players is like, can you be playing everything back at the same time? So that you don't have anything that's kind of like getting out of time with each other.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is that click not being in time with the rest of the tracks.
Yeah.
Because then nobody's going to be able to play in time with all the parts, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a really important thing with any playback system that you're putting together that's going to work. Oh mate, actually, I had this like mad, like weird gallery project that I did with a composer friend of mine, where we literally had this problem because the gallery installed a playback system that literally, it was like some weird corporate thing. Like we'd never really come into contact with it before because with the technology, the players that they were using, because I think they're used for like announcements on the tube and shit, right? It's that kind of thing. And so I sat down with the composer and was just like, okay, cool. Like, here's how we should spec this. Here's what you need to ask for in terms of outputs. And, you know, this is something actually I could probably source for you. And like, we could figure out a solution as like a nice, easy little server that they'd be able to just turn on and it would just go. Mm-hmm. Because what they'd composed is that you would walk into the first part of the gallery and there'd be a piece of music playing. And then what they'd done is they'd written it to change through the rest of the gallery slowly, but then it's deliberately like keyed and written in a way where that transition will feel smooth as you walk through.
Yeah.
But everything kind of has to start at the same time, finish at the end time for this effect to work.
Yeah.
And that was a big problem we had with these players is we couldn't get them all to just play at that same moment. Or if you did, they'd kind of slowly run out of sync because they weren't looping properly or anything like that. So we went through it so much, and then we had like this engineer there who was just like being really grumpy about it and whatever, as is tradition. The same story that it always is. And I remember sitting there with them, and I was just like, look, we really need to set up a system that will do this because that is so core, it's so fundamentally important. That all of these tracks run from the same point. And like, this is what this pad system is doing, right? It's like we've got one single source that presses play on everything.
Yeah.
So that it all starts at the same time, like making sure that literally the tracks that you've bounced off, like when it starts at that 0000, it's, running it across correctly.
Exactly. And then, and that's perfect. And if something's wrong, it's because you've mucked it up.
Yeah, normally.
Most
of the time you've cooked it up.
Painful reality. And like when we were using those examples, like, like the common, slowing down of it, like to check that BV line was correct, we had to wait for the intro to be finished, get there. So it does make the process quite slow if you find out that you might not figure out your mistake until the very end of the track that BV line has like a snare hit in it at the very end. And you might not even realise that until show day in sound check or
that does still happen on big gigs. It's fairly fucking surprising.
Yeah, no, definitely. I guess it's the final example.
So then we'll just move to something more scalable.
Yes.
That you can pretty much just plug in a new sound card and add more outputs.
100%.
Okay, let's get back into it. So the next thing to do is to go through doing it with a DAW. So we've decided we're going to get laptops on stage. It's no longer having to have whatever weird little hardware player that we need. Instead, we're going to be using Ableton to do our playback. Well, we're choosing Ableton because we're good at Ableton,
Yes.
but you can kind of use anything.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess the key thing here is going to be whatever DAW you choose, you're going to need like an interface with multiple outputs. Rather than just a stereo pair. Otherwise, you're going to be the same as our 404 example, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just going to be like mono tracks, click on one of your other mono outputs. But there's loads of advantages to using a piece of software. Things like being able to start running some software instruments. With whatever you're doing. You'll be able to use lots of MIDI mapping and stuff to do your playback control. So you know how like on the SPD we had the one pad that then played the other pads. The pads were you had 3 pads kind of as samplers, and then one as your control. You can then use kind of you can do a similar type of thing with software, but you're going to be assigning a MIDI control in the DAW. To like the play button or whatever. You've also get opened up to various types of setlist management things. I mean, that's one of the things we love about Ableton is you've got loads of like control surface script things that you can do.
100%.
And that's not just like launch pads and that kind of thing. That's also things like AbleSet and Composer and Setlist and lots of ways to manage lots of tracks in a single session.
Yeah. There's loads of ways to do it now. So
which is great. So I guess we're just going to work off of the programming session as far as we got for it for setting up our multi-tracks for the SPD. Except now, if we go to my settings, Command comma is a standard macOS settings thing. You'll notice that in our audio tab in settings, we've got the Play Audio 12 selected, which is a 14 output interface. I think actually you can only get 12 out of it max, and there's only 10 balanced, but it'll display 14. And then output config, I'm going to turn on 1/2, 3/4, and 5 and 6 as mono outputs. 1 and 2 is a stereo, 3 and 4 is stereo, 5 and 6 is mono. This means that I can then, in Ableton, choose these buses that I've got for like music, click, and BV. If I select all of those tracks, and in the drop-down menu that says main, this is your output. This is your output routing. So I'm going to go to external output, and then we've got 1/2 is kind of where it automatically goes to, which I can then go with like BV. I can now select 3 and 4, and then for click, I'm going to select 5 in that drop-down menu just beneath your external output. So now these are all going to separate outputs as they were with the SPD-SX Pro. It's kind of that simple.
Yeah, and then like you've got 10 outputs to pick from the back of it, and then obviously you've got 12 if you decide to use the front.
Yeah.
So you could split the drums left and right, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You could have the bass left and right or in mono.
Yeah.
The music, BVs,
Yeah.
all separated, and your click track separated.
Yeah.
And then add any instruments that you want. So however many outputs is obviously however many like how much separation you want or don't want, which is cool. But I guess like what was easy with the SP404, there's a button to hit play. Same with the SPD, there's a button to hit play. And then I guess even if you were using your phone left and right, you hit play on, your music player. So we need to do the same to Ableton now.
Yeah.
Like we need a play button.
Yeah. So, I mean, either we could grab like any MIDI controller. You could use like a keyboard controller.
Yeah.
Or something with little pads on it or something. Those Akai MPDs are really good for that kind of stuff. One of our preferred things is to use a third-party setlist manager called AbleSet, which I've already turned on now, which probably won't work properly at the moment. Yeah, your set list is empty because it requires a little bit of notation in your Ableton session for it to listen to. So if I just need to add some track 1, add some locators to set up our songs. So song 2, let's make sure that I use some decent syntax here. Otherwise everybody's going to get confused. So song 1, song 2, song 3, song 2 and song 3 on this session don't have anything because I haven't added any more songs to this yet, but with this, we should now see in our AbleSet set list that we have a few songs ready to go. And if I literally press spacebar on AbleSet when it opens, that'll go and that'll play the right song. You'll notice with song 2, you don't hear anything because we haven't got song 2 in the set yet. You can also get it to like auto stop, because this is one of the things when you add a MIDI controller that can sometimes be a problem. You get to the end of the song, and then you're gonna have to have something to stop the playback.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're doing like a transition or something, then obviously that's maybe not so much of an issue. But certainly for most normal playback rigs or most normal bands, like, you're going to need to stop your playback at some point. On the SPD, the song would just run out.
Yeah.
And then that'll be it.
Exactly.
And you'll change your kit, and then that would be your next track.
Yeah. Same with the SP404, but I mean, like, obviously check that loop's not on or anything like that. You just want it to be a one shot.
Yeah. The cool thing about AbleSet is you just make a locator on the Ableton session that says auto stop in big capital letters. And then you'll see on the browser that AbleSet has like individual songs, and I'll run song 2. It doesn't have any audio, but basically from a visual perspective, you'll see that it then gets to the end of the song and then it stops. We could probably also actually do it if I just run song 1, and I can quickly jump to the end of it because we're in Ableton, and you'll see once it gets the auto stop marker, that playback just stopped, and that's AbleSet that did that for you. So I guess that's one of the things with software that it does a lot better than most hardware solutions, is your kind of like set list management, your transport control is really, really quick and easy. Like I did there, we can, with all of these technologies, I can then just like jump to the middle of the track, and jump to, earlier on in the track and whatever, and just quickly stop and play.
Yeah, so it's easier now to like make edits on the fly. Like, even in sound check, if someone goes like, you know what, last night it would have been great to have a double chorus.
And then I'll go find the chorus wherever that is. Looks like it's probably here. So with that, I can literally just go Command Shift D when I have this chorus selected, and that's going to double up that chorus for us. There we go, and then you can hear that we then go straight back into a chorus after that, and it just keeps going. So that was one shortcut.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's ready for the show tonight.
Yeah, now, like, you can go back and check it. You don't have to, like, play the whole track all over again. Yeah. It's all done. And then, like, you can do looping, which, again, is really good on AbleSet or anything like that. So if you had, like, an intro, that little intro that you didn't know how long the singer was going to talk for, they could go on forever until you unlatch the loop, and then you go for it.
And then you play.
Yeah.
We've done it with some intro stuff. Sometimes it's quite cool to have, like, a drone intro, and then the artist walks on stage and, like, kind of starts adding some textures and layers to it. And when they're done with that, ready to go into the first track of the show, they unlatch that drone loop from the intro, and then the first track starts to play, and then you build into the rest of the show. And there's loads of different ways that you can deploy it. I guess one of the another massive advantage of being able to add extra things to the software that you're using, like AbleSet. Like, AbleSet is basically a web server that then controls Ableton for you. So you can literally have an iPhone connected via network to your laptop, and you open a browser on the iPhone. Yeah. So and then you can do all of your transport control there. So if you just like open Safari, there'll be a IP address for this laptop. What have we got here? So 169.254.160.150.
160.
And if you just type in that IP address to the browser when your phone's connected to the laptop over a network, like it being a web server is so great, because it means that I don't need to download an app. We just need to have, like, here we go. So what have you got that working there? Great.
Yeah, so you can see me jump around your session.
So when you press song 2, it moves to song 2, and song 3 moves to song 3, moves to song 1, moves to song 1, and then when you press play, there we go. That's ready to go. Which is so useful. And that iPhone could be anything. We've done it with tablets. We've done it with other computers. You're not necessarily locked into an OS. for whatever device you're using for your transport control then.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we don't need to worry too much about the MIDI mapping. That's kind of done a lot of that hard work for us already.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
Because you could just like, sometimes that's why you see people a lot of, like, if they've got a backup controller and stuff like that, and you have to like reprogramming it, at least when you open up the same link every time, and as long as the programming like for controlling the Ableton session is done within Ableton, not done on an external controller. So you open up any laptop and then you open up anything that can connect to a web browser, and you can control it the same as you did anywhere. Yeah. Whatever gear you have. Yeah.
And it'll look the same as well, like that interface is there. That set list is there. If you want to change songs in the set list, like you can just do it all from this interface, depending on how much you've locked people out or let people go. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of that's us.
Yeah.
Those are kind of three main ways to run your backing tracks.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess like the only thing with this is if something went wrong outside a stage, or you had a very complex setup with your interface where you were using all 10 outputs, you MIDI mapped all these controls to do these amazing like dub effects or anything like that. If something goes wrong, it is most likely like a cable's fallen out, or maybe you programmed the show badly. Like that's normally the reason things break. But if you're on stage on your own, it's quite stressful to fix that in the moment. Yeah. So you'll probably be too stressed. It is probably a cable that's just unplugged, but you're probably too stressed to figure that out, and you panic. Yeah. That's why it's kind of does make sense to have someone babysit it. Yeah. Or like you've left it on a really shaky stage, and the USB's unconnected to the interface, and now all your audio is cut out, and it's like it's not broken, it's just circumstance. Totally like you get someone walk over and they kick the power out and stuff like that, which
unfortunately on smaller gigs will happen all the time.
Yeah.
When you can't have someone standing side of stage being like, don't fucking walk on the stage. But then even when you do have that, I've had people scoot across the back of a stage mid-gig like, what are you doing?
Yeah. There's a reason why there's people that solely look after laptops. Yeah. And solely look after playback.
Yeah. There's so many advantages, but you know, it needs to, you need to manage what you're expecting from it. Because
100%.
People will always blame your gear as opposed to their own gear.
Yeah, of course.
That's like a classic thing. Great. So, podcast. That's cool. Now you can run backing tracks.
Yeah, you can all do it. Yeah. And
that's simple.
There's no excuse on budget or what gear you have. There's plenty of options there to pick one and have a go yourself.
Just find something that can play some audio back. It's called playback. Play back the audio.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. Right. Thank you very much for watching the Shofar podcast. You can find more about A Work in Progress at aworkinprogress.uk on Instagram. Yeah, just go to our Instagram. I don't care where else you do it. I'll fucking link you to all the other shit that we do. Chrisy, have you got anything?
No, like,
follow you.
Thanks for listening for the first episode. That was really, really fun. And we've got so much more coming up that's going to be really interesting too.
Yeah, man. Podcast!
Sweet.
The Shofar podcast is brought to you by the music direction team at A Work in Progress, a live electronic music direction company. If you want to find out more about us, you can get us on YouTube at A Work in Progress -UK, on TikTok and Instagram, aworkinprogress.uk, or on our website, aworkinprogress.uk, where you can also find our blog that has the show notes, diagrams, patches, all the stuff you're going to need to help understand the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next month. Podcast outro done! Fuck yeah!